This is ABC Wide Bay and ABC Capricornia. Hello, it's Ross Kay here. This morning it's Thursday the 18th of February and I hope your day is ticking along quite nicely. It may have been an interesting start to the morning if you went to log on to Facebook and maybe you go and check your news at the ABC Wide Bay site or the ABC Capricornia site. Browse through, see some good articles, see what people are talking about, maybe on the Wide Bay page, share a dragon fruit recipe. That's something that's up there right now. Only this morning, not so much. Something might be a bit off. There's no news in some places. Facebook has removed all manner of local and international news content. You might have trouble accessing the ABC Wide Bay or ABC Capricornia page or even sharing a link to an article. Ritesh Chugh is a senior lecturer and social media expert from Central Queensland University. Ritesh, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, Ross. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
No, absolute pleasure. Can you give us some context? What's going on here?
So, Ross, to start off with, I went to Facebook to share the news that I would be on your show this morning. Mm-hmm. Facebook didn't allow me to do that either. So
even maybe the mention of the station was enough to nix it?
No, the link to your page.
Aha.
To the online page where you have your online news.
On the stream, yeah.
Yeah, the online stream. So, coming back to your question, Ross, what is happening this morning? I think I'd like to start with incredible bullying tactics is what I call them. So what has happened is Facebook this morning has blocked Australian news outlets over a proposed media bargaining law that will force the social giant to share revenue with media outlets. Now, this legislation, the proposed legislation or the bargaining code, has actually passed through the House of Representatives last night. Mm-hmm. And the bill is expected to pass the Senate and it could actually become law in a week or two. How this is worrying is that the legislation would regulate digital companies such as Facebook and Google to pay media companies for news content. And hence, Facebook has taken a very hard stance and has blocked or is blocking access for users. As a result, we are not able to view content on Facebook pages, nor are we able to share news. In fact, some of the Facebook pages have actually been wiped clean. Sorry.
I've seen quite a few that have been wiped clean this morning, Ritesh. It's been absolutely fascinating. And you say it's bullying tactics on behalf of Facebook, and it all comes down to the dollar. How do we know how much potentially under this legislation Facebook would have to pay, say, annually to the government, to news organisations to share the content?
I don't have a dollar figure, but I'm assuming it'll run into millions of dollars because ultimately, Facebook is there to make money. Mm-hmm. So I don't have a dollar figure, but bullying tactics, the reason I call them bullying tactics is because, even essential services Facebook pages such as the Bureau of Meteorology, Queensland Health, even AFL Women Facebook page, you can't access anything there. And Harvey Norman. Now, Harvey Norman is not a media company.
No.
Their page also has got nothing, so it's all vanished or wiped clean.
How much have people come to rely on Facebook for their news, Ritesh?
That's a good question, Ross. There was some estimates. Last year there was a research by a company, I think it was Roy Morgan, that said about 38% of Aussies rely on social media for their news.
So potentially a third of the entire population?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden this has come to a sudden halt this morning. And, it's not just about us relying on consuming news from Facebook. It's also the fact that our Australian news will also not get out of Australia to the world. Mm-hmm. So that is a problem. It actually puts us as a country at a reputational risk as well.
How so?
Because, our news will not be accessible to anyone outside the world. So if someone's trying to access your ABC page, there will be nothing visible. So that's a bigger problem.
But we're not necessarily using Facebook to browse to, say, the ABC News site. We'd be using our internet browsers to...
That's very true, but it comes back to the fact that it's not just Australians who rely on social media for news. It's a worldwide trend. Most of us prefer a one-stop shop where we can get everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I personally speak from my own experience. I rely a lot on Facebook itself for my news. So all of that has been wiped clean. In fact, Ross, on the other hand, I would also say that Google has been proactive, because over the last few days, they've been brokering deals with media companies.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Facebook is essentially now holding the media companies and its users at ransom.
This is ABC Wide Bay and ABC Capricornia, 17 minutes past 10. You're hearing from Ritesh Chugh. He's a senior lecturer and social media expert from Central Queensland University. Ritesh, could the consequences be that people on Facebook simply start to migrate away and use other platforms?
Well, personally, I would love to see that happen. Because Australia believes in a fair go. Now, I don't think Facebook is giving its users a fair go. In fact, what I would also say is the businesses that provide advertising revenue to Facebook should pull out and not advertise on Facebook. Let's hold Facebook at ransom now. Send a clear message. I do understand, and I'm reading the news this morning, that the Australian government is in negotiations with Facebook. So the negotiations are on. But ultimately, what Facebook has done is holding us at ransom. They haven't done what Google did. Google has done the right thing. Google has started brokering deals with media companies, and Google is going to be paying those companies for displaying their content on its Google Showcase News platform. I'm sure Facebook could have done something similar, or could have negotiated, rather than all of a sudden pulling the plug out on millions of users this morning in Australia.
Do you think this can be resolved?
I'm sure there will be some resolution, because, firstly, when I talk from a technology perspective, we all know that the Facebook algorithms or the algorithms are not working well. That's why, some of the essential services, Facebook pages have also been wiped clean.
Mm-hmm.
Will it be resolved? Well, it's like looking into a crystal ball. I'm sure the negotiations are on, and we'll see more of that in the next day or so. And I'm sure things will move really quickly.
I'm always hearing complaints from friends on the algorithm, because they never see what their other friends are doing. I never really see what my friends are doing on Facebook. It's very difficult to actually keep in touch with them via Facebook, when that's the medium through which you would sometimes mostly keep in touch with them.
Absolutely, Ross. That's the way the algorithm is designed. It usually pushes out content that is relevant to people with whom you've been interacting with the most. So a person might be on your friend list, but if you haven't been interacting, or they haven't been interacting with you, their content will not show up on your news story. But I think for that we should do another interview, because that's a whole topic in itself.
Righto. Well, we'll lock that in, Ritesh. I'd love to discuss that further with you in the future, but thank you very much for helping to explain the situation regarding Facebook this morning. Very much appreciated.
Thank you for having me, Ross. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
You as well. Ritesh Chugh, senior lecturer and social media expert from CQU. So